So I have survived over 800 days in a single hardcore world, and I built a lot of cool stuff along the way. And throughout all of the videos I've uploaded within this world, I've gotten a bunch of comments of people complimenting me on my builds, saying that they wish they can build as well as I can, saying that my starter house is better than anything they've ever made, all this crazy stuff, right? And while I obviously very much appreciate all of the compliments and all the kind words regarding my builds, I kind of just want to go through kind of what goes through my mind when I am considering what to build next. Mainly just to show that I feel like pretty much anyone can replicate the builds I do, and nothing I've built so far I don't really think has been all that insane. You know, at least compared to what other YouTubers have done and stuff like that, you know? So I'll be giving you guys 8 simple tricks to make your builds go from this to this. I really hope you guys can take something away from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get into the tips. I guess this video is actually going to be 9 tips instead of 8, okay? You're gonna get an extra one right here at the beginning. Because pretty much whenever I'm thinking about building anything, the first thing I'll do is consult Google if I don't already have an image of what the build's going to look like in my head. If it's a brand new idea and something that I'm not comfortable building, I will pretty much always go on Google to get some inspiration. Now, I don't want to copy the build exactly from the image that I get, but it's at least a good way to get like the general shape of the thing I'm going for. I also watch a bunch of Minecraft YouTubers who are really talented at building. And again, I don't want to copy exactly what they do, but using a couple of their like techniques goes a long way. For example, I kind of learned what texturing was and kind of learned how to do it from Flip from Mythical Sausage, who are 2 of the YouTubers that I watched most frequently, I think. But I don't think it's beneficial to completely copy their exact build, but it can be really useful if you see what kind of things they're doing with their builds and try to mimic that in your own way. Of course, though, if you do take anything from a YouTuber, and if you're making content yourself, obviously give credit. You don't want to be the person who steals a build, because that's just not cool. But now to get into the actual list, right? So the first tip is probably the most important. It's not necessarily even a tip. It kind of is, I guess, because I'll give some examples. But the first thing you want to consider is your block palette. You could follow all the rest of these tips, but if you have a really bad block palette, your building won't look good. I build with a whole lot of wood and stone. I feel like you can never really go wrong with a combination of those pretty much in any capacity. So you kind of just have to mess around yourself and you have to figure out what kind of block palette you want to use. This kind of just comes with experience though, so you kind of just want to mess around making random builds here and there just to see what kind of block palette you think works together. But I find just a very simple block palette, a type of darker wood paired with a lighter wood will pretty much always look good. The second tip here is a super quick one. Just use odd numbers in your builds. So as you can see here in our little like wooden starter house thing that I'm going to be building, we have an odd number of blocks on this front face. This will make it so that there is 1 block in the middle rather than 2. This will help you a lot when you are putting on the roof and when you're like adding windows and doing other exterior decoration bits to the house. So just a really simple rule of thumb, just try to stick to building with an odd number of blocks. Moving on now to tip number 3. This has to do with the building shape. Now you just want to avoid building with just a rectangle or just a square house. It's really simple to improve that shape to be something a lot more unique, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So what I'll normally do is start off with something like this. I will start off with a main rectangle, main square shape to kind of act as the main part of the house that I am building. And then from there, I will just branch off other rooms. To give you a more accurate representation of how I actually plan out my builds, let me take out all of the walls of this house here. We're also going to remove the roof here too. So when I'm actually building something, what I'll do is I will throw down a shape like this, and then I will just try to pick a couple sides where I'll throw in some other random parts of the building just jutting out. For example, this side here. Let's bring out an extension of the building 3 blocks this way, and we're going to make it symmetrical along this side of the wall. Then we can get rid of the divider that was right here. It's no longer necessary, and now the house looks like this, a little bit more unique. Let's do the same thing here in the front. So let's bring this out 3, and then across here, and then out 3 on the other side. And we're going to use this as the entrance. And I suppose let's get one more little area to jut out. Let's bring one over here, but let's not make this one completely symmetrical because it doesn't really have to be. We'll bring that one out like that, 3 blocks, and then across 3 blocks here in the middle. So now our shape is looking like this. I think it's looking way more interesting, way more unique. It's just no longer that main box. But as you can see, that main box is very much still there. This brings me to the next tip, which is about depth. Now, you can have depth in a couple different ways. A really easy way to make your build look more interesting and just to add more character to it is just by putting a frame around the walls. Kind of like I did with the block palettes over there. This is a design I use in so many of my builds. You just have some stripped spruce and some oak, and then you just kind of go around the walls with those blocks, and then you put some spruce stairs and a spruce trapdoor in the middle, and it adds this nice little archway. This also kind of ties back to making sure you're building with odd numbers, because if you're building with odd numbers, you can add more pillars in the middle of the walls, and it should work out perfectly. In some cases, you might not be able to add a trapdoor, but it's okay. Still, just the upside down stairs does the trick pretty well. And even if you don't want to add the pillar in the middle, you can just throw more trapdoors on the top. Makes the building look more supported, even though that doesn't actually matter, because the building doesn't have to be supported in Minecraft. It'll obviously still stand without the support beams. I will usually also make sure I frame out the main square or rectangle that I started out with. So, you know, you can see me doing that right here with these logs. And this is where the different layers of depth can come in. So right here, right, this wall I'm looking at currently doesn't have as much depth as this wall, but I think that's okay. You don't necessarily need the same level of depth all the way around to make it look good. You can make depth in different ways. One easy way of doing this is just by, you know, putting a window right here and then putting stairs on the top and the bottom. That just creates a little bit of depth to the window. It makes the wall look a bit more interesting. And this is a window design that I use all the time. I put an extinguished campfire above a fence gate, open the fence gate, put a spruce trapdoor next to it. This adds a bit more detail and depth to an otherwise pretty plain looking wall. Now that we have some depth in the building, let's start talking about the roof. Now, figuring out the right roof blocks will definitely come with some practice as well. But one thing I can suggest to you all, don't make your roof out of the same block you used for the walls. That's just a very simple tip that I think will make the roof look better and stand out more. If I used oak for this roof, it will just be a big blob of oak, you know, across the horizon, and I feel like you want to have a bit more color variation in there. So for my roof here, I'm going to use deep slate. I typically like to work with the main shape again. I just kind of keep coming back to the main rectangle I built to begin with. So I'm going to work on the roof of the main section, and then we will work on these side sections. So there's a bunch of ways you can make a roof. There are some really complex ones out there, but I'm just going to give you two very simple roof designs that can look good in most settings. The first roof design is probably the most simple. What you're going to do is you're going to come one block over, so you want it to overhang everything, just adding a little bit more depth that kind of, you know, relates back to the last tip. So you're going to take stairs. You're going to have this stair that's like diagonal to the pillar here. Place one stair on the back side of it that is upside down. As you can see down there, it's an upside down stair. Then turn your character around, place a stair on top of that, and do this all the way to the top. So just upside down stair, regular stair. And then you will eventually hit the middle. And since this is odd, you will hit one block in the middle, where I like to put an upside down stair facing this direction. And then I'll also come here, turn around, place one stair on top of that. And then let's replicate this to the other side. And just like that, you got a nice pointy roof in the middle. This will pretty much always look good, unless I guess you have a really, really long face that you're trying to make a roof for. Might look a little bit out of place there. But if you build with a decent scale in mind, if you build kind of small, this roof will work pretty much every time. And then a slight variance to this roof. So you're going to start the same exact way with the upside down stair right here, but instead of another stair, you're going to put a full block and then a stair. So then upside down stair, full block, regular stair until you get to the middle. And then when you reach the middle, you do the same thing with the upside down stair in the middle there, and then you also just put the full block and then another stair facing this direction. I think this roof design looks better, just in my opinion, and it also gives you more room on the inside of your house for, you know, storage needs or anything like that. And notice how I've only built the trim of the roof so far. This is intentional, because when I make my roofs, I like to have a trim of a different block. So in this case, the trim is going to be just, you know, regular cobbled deep slate. But then as for the rest of the roof, for now, let's just fill it in with deep slate bricks. Now that I have the main rectangle roofed off, we can start working on the rest of these roofs. And you can also easily blend the two types of roofs together that I just mentioned, and I'm gonna do that over here. So on this side, we're just gonna do the regular roof that just uses stairs all the way up until the middle. Also, my apologies, it was raining in the last clip, I think. I forgot to change it, so it didn't rain in this world. My bad, it should be fixed now. Once again, though, in the front, we're gonna do this very simple stair roof. And let's connect it up to the rest of the house. And now we have a full roof on the entire house. It might look a little complicated at the moment, especially if you're very new to building. But if you just keep practicing with the roof designs I gave you and you know, try to connect them up together as well as possible, you'll definitely get the hang of it pretty shortly. The last thing I want to mention with the roof is a chimney. I didn't really start adding chimneys to my builds until pretty recently, and I didn't realize how much they actually add to the overall vibe of your village or your little compound. It helps a lot because you can just see like the smoke from a distance and it makes it look a lot more lively. So let me give you one very, very basic chimney design. All you're gonna do is break into the top of your roof, and then we're just gonna throw some cobblestone, mix in some regular stone in there too, until you get to a decent height. Just even say right there is fine. Throw a campfire on top of that, and surround the campfire with trapdoors. This is a very, very simple chimney design, but I think it gets the job done really well. I'm going to make this a little bit different, give you like the second level of chimney design, but I just wanted to provide this one just to give you some kind of an example. And the only thing I'm really going to change here is on either side of the chimney, I'm just going to make it look like it's a bit more supported. This is the chimney I would probably add to this house. There's more complex ones you can make, obviously, but this is a pretty simple version. All I did is just throw a couple supporting pillars on either face of, you know, that first little tower that I built. Also, now that I put in the roof, we have a bunch of gaps up here. Let me go fill all these in really fast. All right, now that that's done, let's talk about the next tip, which is texturing. And this one's also really important and kind of underrated in my opinion, because for a while, I would have just left this build as it was standing right now. But we can definitely still improve this pretty simply. All I'm gonna do here is break away some of the oak logs in the walls, and we're gonna replace them with a different block. In this case, it's going to be stripped oak. I'm gonna do this all the way around, and it's gonna add just a little bit more texture to the entire build. This is definitely another thing that comes with a bit of practice. I'm still very much learning how to texture myself. I am by no means a master at this, but I've done it enough where I can understand at least a couple combinations of blocks that look good together when trying to texture. And with this texturing in, I think the walls look so much better. It's a really small thing, but I definitely think it helps a lot. You can texture in other places as well, not only just the walls, like the flat walls. You can texture your roof really easily. So in this case here, we have deep slate bricks as the main block on the inside. So if we get some deep slate tiles and you throw those in every so often, it just adds a little bit more character to the roof of your house, and I think it helps a lot. Now, tip number 7, use leaves. Okay, so leaves are incredible in making builds look better. And if you want to use the exact leaves I'm using, Germsy Boy's Better Leaves look amazing. I will leave a link to you know, his leaf pack in the description down below if you would like to use it. These just go such a long way when you're detailing the exterior of your houses. What I like to do is I will take some and kind of drape them down the sides of the roof. And I like to keep it a little bit realistic, like how a vine would actually fall down the roof of a house. Like, keep it going one direction, like diagonally slanting down the house. I personally really like oak leaves, but you can use whatever leaves you like to use. It doesn't really matter all that much, they all look pretty good. Now, this whole tip is just kind of about exterior decoration in general, but mainly focused on leaves. They just do a whole lot. I'm gonna move on a little bit here to windows. So you kind of already saw one window design that I like to do that's very simple. I usually use this on walls that don't have much depth in them already, but let's say this wall here, if I want to put a window, this already has a lot of depth. So what I'm gonna do is I will still use the stair, probably just on the bottom, and then just very simply gonna throw 2 spruce trapdoors as window shutters. And that is it. Very simple window design. There's also some bats on the inside. They are chilling, but very simple window design that I still think looks really good. So let's do a few of these all the way around the build. All right, so we got a whole bunch of windows now all the way around this place, except for one side. I don't really think a window would look good here. If I only want to make a 1-block window, it looks kind of awkward from the outside. You can still do it. Like, this doesn't look bad, I don't think. Definitely still doable. And I don't want to do a 2-window here because I don't think that looks particularly good. I like having like window shutters on the outsides. So instead what we're going to do here is another very simple exterior decoration technique, and that is a flower bed. So all you're going to do for this is just put some grass like so, put some trapdoors. I prefer oak trapdoors for this underneath the grass, and then just put some flowers down. And that is it. Super simple, but I think it looks way better than it was when it was just bare. And also, we did not add a window on this front side because that is going to be the door. And now this house is effectively done. Sure, there's more you could do to it, but I wanted to keep this really simple just to show how you can pretty easily go from this blocky house to this much more unique looking structure. And I only have one more final tip for you guys, but it's a very simple one. Hit subscribe. No, I'm kidding. It's use creative mode, like I'm doing right now. Just go crazy in creative mode. Figure out what kind of block palette you think looks the best. Figure out what kind of roofs you want to build. Use all of these tips potentially in creative before you try to use them in survival, because it's much easier to see your entire building in creative and to see if you actually like what it looks like. Because things look way different from the ground than they do from the sky. So something can look really, really good from the ground, but then when you fly around it, it looks kind of awkward. So using creative mode is your best friend. Practice making houses. Just build a bunch of really random houses. That's what I would do all the time on my old creative worlds. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope there was at least one thing you were able to take away from this. I really appreciate you stopping by, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.